of the jury. Confronted, confirmed, caught. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Michael Spendio, and I, along with my co-counsel, represent the state of Midlands. And we are here today to present you with the facts and evidence of a case that warrants the charge of aggravated murder against the defendant, Jordan Ryder. Now, on the weekend of July 14th, 2018, the defendant took her sick and frail 12-year-old daughter, Parker Page, to Calkins Campground. Now, prior to her death and prior to this trip, the Parker Page had been diagnosed and living with osteogenesis imperfecta, or more commonly known as brittle bone disease. Now, testimony should show you today just how debilitating and physically imposing this disease can be on the mindset and frame of a 12-year-old girl. Now, once the defendant and Parker had arrived to the campgrounds, they had to check in. The defendant, once arrived, insists to the owner of the campsite on having the 12th campsite in all of the Calkins land. This campsite is notorious for its privacy and its seclusion. Folks, this is where you go when you want to be invisible. You don't want anyone to see you. Now, after they had checked in, they're at the campsite, the defendant and Parker, they had to buy their camping supplies. Among many other goods purchased was one walking stick. Testimony should show you today that this was a point of disagreement between the defendant and Parker Page. Now, while they were out on the campsite, they were out hiking, the defendant and Parker, they were not having a good time. Quite frankly, they were having a terrible time. Parker and a walking stick, thrashing about, poking in the bushes, poking in the trees, poking the defendant, and poking again, and poking until the defendant snapped. The defendant snapped. And the next thing that we discovered was the lifeless corpse of Parker Page at the bottom of the Crone Loop on Calkins Campground. Now, as the prosecution today, we hold the burden of proof. And we must prove to you today, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant knowingly killed her daughter, Parker Page, under the age of 13 years old. Now, beyond a reasonable doubt simply means that absent of any other logical explanation besides what the state provides to you today, we must find the defendant guilty. In order to prove this to you today, the state will call 3 witnesses before you. The first of which is a young social media star by the name of Kelly Deuce. Now, Miss Deuce will testify to the bitter relationship that she confronted while out on the Crone Loop on July 14th. The next up for our witnesses, you will hear from Dr. Richard Quincy. In his expert testimony today, Dr. Quincy will confirm to you how the death of Parker Page, in his expert testimony, he will rule out any other cause besides homicide. This death could have only been a homicide. And lastly, the state will call Midlands police officer and lead detective into the investigation of Parker Page's death, Jamal Chesney, Officer Jamal Chesney. In his testimony today, Officer Chesney will testify to the suspicious encounters that he had upon encountering the defendant on July 15th. Later on in this trial today, my co-counsel Brian Tarnow will come before you and ask you to find the only verdict that evidence allows, the only verdict that justice demands, the only verdict that Parker Page deserves. Find the defendant guilty of aggravated murder.
Your Honor, before I begin, I set up a demonstrative.
Sure.
Thanks, sir. Your Honors, opposing counsel, may it please the court. Everyone knows why we are here, but nobody knows how. On July 14th, Parker Page and Jordan Ryder decided to go camping. They wanted to spend some time together, something they hadn't been able to do for a long time. Now, Jordan Ryder had recently learned about Parker Page's debilitating disease known as osteogenesis imperfecta, or brittle bone disease, as opposing counsel mentioned. This disease, it makes you far more likely to injure yourself, to stumble and break bones, far more so than a normal person. Now, Jordan Ryder had no idea the clear extent to this, but we're going to call an expert, Dr. Lopez, that's going to tell you more about it. And Dr. Lopez is going to tell you that it was a severe form of osteogenesis imperfecta, something that will cause Parker Page to possibly hurt herself more if an accident did occur. However, back to the story, Jordan Ryder and Parker Page, once they arrived at the campsite, they spoke with the camp director and chose a campsite. Now, they chose this apparently notorious campsite because they wanted to be alone. They wanted to spend quality time together. Like I said, something they haven't been able to do for a long time. And then they decided to go out on the Lacrone Loop, a loop that it's rather long and it's fairly arduous, but there were very few people on it. Something that lets them spend time together. Now, this loop, they had no idea the danger that it posed. They got out there and they realized it was difficult. They realized that Parker was having a hard time, and even Jordan was having a hard time. So they got in an argument, they were hot, they were possibly dehydrated, and they got in an argument. Now, then they decided to head back to the campsite. They were still fuming at each other, but they decided to relax and cool off. Jordan Ryder went and took a nap, and Parker Page decided to go off on her own. She decided to go exploring. And Jordan went and took a shower, and they discussed prior that they were thinking about going off and doing their own things. They wanted to go see the different wildlife. They were interested in different things, but they wanted to be close together at least while they did these things. Jordan got worried. She was scared about Parker when she didn't come back for multiple hours, and she was frantic. She had no idea what to do. She searched and searched and searched and searched, and she couldn't find her. Parker Page was missing. Now, Jordan was frantic and went all around trying to find her. And then she decided to just go back to the last place that she saw Parker, because that was the best thing to do. She figured that Parker would come back. Parker never did. Parker went off on the Lacrone Loop by herself and had an accident. She fell, she died. Now, Jordan found this out in a police station. It's a terrible thing that no mother should ever do. Let's find out about your death for your little girl. Now, there are three things I want you to take into account today throughout the trial. The first is the timeline that's going to be presented. There's going to be lots of times thrown out. I want you to pay special attention to where Jordan Ryder and Parker Page are at those specific times. The times of deaths are going to be different between the two experts, and that's reasonable doubt. Something that should never happen in a case such as this. The timeline will be inconsistent. Second thing I want you to take notice of is the investigation done by Detective Chesney. Detective Chesney is going to come up to you, and he's going to sit in this chair. He's going to tell you what an investigation he did. He's going to tell you all about it. He's going to tell you the steps he took. However, my co-counsel is going to come up and he's going to show you exactly what Detective Chesney failed to do. He's going to show you that Detective Chesney was gunning for Jordan Ryder the entire time. There were no other suspects, and there were very, very few witnesses and very little evidence. It was a poor investigation. Finally, I want you to take notice of Jordan's actions. burden in today's case is beyond a reasonable doubt, and it is something that opposing counsel will not be able to reach. You will have doubts at the end of today's case, and they will be reasonable based on your own perceptions. At the end of today's case, you will find Jordan Ryder not guilty. Thank you. Your Honor, permission to deconstruct the demonstrative.
You may.
Back here. There you go.
Is the state ready to call its first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The state would like to call Ms. Kelly Deuce to the stand.
All right.
May I proceed?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Could you please state your name for the court?
Hi, my name is Kelly Deuce.
Ms. Deuce, could you please tell the court something about yourself?
Well, I'm originally from Canada, and I love to broadcast my adventures and travels on my blog as well as my Me Too. And when I heard the exciting stories about Calkins campgrounds, I knew I had to check it out.
And what day did you arrive to Calkins Campground?
I arrived on the weekend, the 14th.
And, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
When you had arrived to Calkins Campground, what were your immediate actions?
Well, I arrived around 1 p.m. and I immediately tried to check in Romani, but I couldn't find him anywhere. And so I decided to head to the trails instead of the campsite.
And when you had headed to the trails, which path did you decide to take?
I decided to enter the trails through the Raglan Loop. I'm sorry, hard for me to pronounce sometimes. And I just went to the Muskie Pond, and it was so beautiful out there. I had a nice lunch, took some bomb photos. I left the video camera at home that day. And then I remember hearing about how excited LaCron Loop was. And so I knew I'd check it out.
And so you headed down the LaCrone Loop. And when you were down there, did you happen to meet anyone or have an encounter?
Yes, I did. About 23 minutes into my hike, I encountered the voices of Jordan Parker Pages.
You mentioned the name Jordan. Is this Jordan in the room today?
Yes.
Could you please point and describe Jordan for the court?
Jordan's right there in the brown peacoat.
Your Honor, at this time, we ask that the record reflect the witnesses correctly identify the defendant, Jordan Ryder.
Witness will, record will so reflect.
Thank you. Now, you had met the defendant, Jordan Ryder, and Parker Page. But did you meet them? Did you have an encounter with them, Ms. Deuce?
Yes, I did. When I first confronted Jordan Parker Page, they seemed like hoots at first, in all honesty. And we had discussed a little bit, but then Jordan seemed to get a little annoyed with Parker.
And what was Parker doing at this time?
Parker, she had a hiking stick, and she was kind of playing around the bushes with it, and at one point she even started poking Jordan in the calf with the capped end.
Ms. Deuce, if you saw a picture of this walking stick, would you be able to recognize a picture of it today?
Yes, I would.
Your Honor, approaching opposing counsel with a photograph. All right. Permission to approach the witness with the same? Here we are. Ms. Deuce, could you describe what I just handed to you?
This is the hiking stick of Parker Page.
And are you familiar with the contents of this photograph?
Yes, I am.
And is this a fair and accurate depiction of the...
Yes, it is.
And does this appear to be altered in any way?
No, it does not.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to enter Exhibit 17 into evidence.
No objections, Your Honor.
Be amended.
Your Honor, would you like a courtesy copy? Now, Ms. Deuce, you had witnessed Parker Page holding a walking stick. And you mentioned, what was she doing with this walking stick?
I mentioned that she was playing around the bushes with it. She was poking Jordan in the calf with the capped end.
And did the defendant, Jordan, ever respond to this?
Yes, she did. At one point, she even reached out for the stick and yanked it out of Parker's hands, and she went staggering backwards. The girl almost fell.
And following this, this encounter, what were your next steps?
I honestly wanted to put some distance between me and the family drama, and so I started heading back to the lake.
And where did you go after the lake?
Well, for about an hour I was down hiking back up and all that, and it was honestly really hot, the foliage was dense, and so I headed back to Lacron Loop.
And on your way back up to the Lacron Loop, did you have any other encounters?
I did. As I was walking back, you wouldn't believe it, in the same freaking spot that I left Jordan and Parker, they were arguing.
And this was the defendant and Parker Page?
Yes.
Okay. And after this encounter, and after your second time encountering the defendant and Parker Page, approximately what time do you think that this took place?
Roughly 3:30, 3:45, 4-ish.
Ms. Deuce, could you repeat that again, please?
Between like 3:34.
Ms. Deuce, one more time?
Objection, Your Honor. I asked and answered the question to answer 3
I believe
times.
that's correct. Sustained.
All right. Ms. Deuce, at approximately after the second encounter that you had with Jordan and Parker, you had headed to Calkins Rock?
Yes.
And approximately what time would you be heading towards Calkins?
Objection, Your Honor. Opposing counsel is testifying as to the location of Kelly Dukes at the time.
Your
I
Honor,
think you're a little late on your objection, counsel. While that objection was leading, or the question was leading, you were untimely, so no ruling.
Ms. Deuce, you had approached Calkins Rock.
Yes, I approached the sun around 4:30, 4:45.
And while you were at Calkins Rock, what happened?
Well, I heard screaming, and the scream was unmistakably Parker Page's. I heard her scream out something along the lines of, "You love our stories more than you love me."
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay is the statement of Parker Page.
Your Honor, may I respond?
No.
This statement is not being used to prove the truth of the matter asserted. It is simply being used to establish the witness's perception based on prior experiences with the voice of Parker Page.
In response to that,
Your Honor, that's not an exception to hearsay.
well, he's saying it's not hearsay at all.
Your Honor, the statements being offered by Parker, or the statements being offered by Kelly Dukes for the truth of the matter asserted, and they're stated by Parker Page, which are out-of-court statements.
I tend to agree that your client or your witness can identify the young lady's voice without the contents of the statement being in the record, so I want to sustain that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, move to strike.
The jury will be instructed to disregard.
This one.
Now, Ms. Deuce, following your second encounter with Parker and the defendant, what were your next steps? What did you do after this?
Well, after I heard that scream, I also heard a yelp.
And this was on the Calkins Rock.
Yes, it was.
Objection, Your Honor, leading question.
Sustained, please rephrase.
Yes, sir. And where were you when you heard the scream when you heard the scream and yelp?
The summit.
All right. During the following morning, what happened, Ms. Deuce?
The following morning, it was around 10 a.m. I was writing that morning. It was really nice. And then I started hearing sirens outside. And so I went out there and I walked towards it because there was a flock of cops right outside Maya's cabin. And I had to go see what was going on.
And did you have an interaction with anyone at this time?
Yes, I did. Detective Chesney came up to me and he showed me a picture of Parker Page. And I went cold because I just saw that girl yesterday.
And during your encounter with Detective Chesney, did you happen to give him any information?
Yes, I told him about how I saw her with Jordan on the Lacombe Loop just
Objection, Your Honor, as to hearsay. The statement, the witness's own statements are hearsay.
Response.
Your Honor, may I have a moment to confer with co-counsel?
You may.
Thank you. Your Honor, this statement is not hearsay, as it is not even using a direct quote or a statement from any of the parties represented, being Ms. Deuce and Detective Chesney. Rather, the alleged statement is simply being used to show subsequent action, even if it is not a statement in itself.
So the effect on the listener is what you're
Yes,
arguing? Okay.
yes, sir.
Why is it not simply being used for the effect on the listener?
Your Honor, the statements are being used for the truth of the matter. If they really wanted to talk about the effect on the listener, they can talk about the subsequent actions taken by Kelly Dukes and Detective Chesney.
I assume you'll be talking about what the detective did after hearing these.
Yes, Your Honor, if I may proffer, the line of questioning will show.
You're good. I'm going to allow it at this point in time. If they fail to connect the dots, you can re-raise your objection.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Ms. Deuce, during your conversation with Detective Chesney, did you happen to offer him any information?
Yes, I did. I showed him, I hit him towards the Lacron Loop where I saw her last.
And did this take any number of time?
Yes, it took quite a while, a few hours.
And what was discovered at the end of the day?
The body of Parker Page.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Good afternoon, Ms. Dukes.
Afternoon.
So you describe yourself as a social media influencer.
Yes, I do.
In fact, you run a MeTube channel,
I do indeed. Very proud of it.
a fairly popular MeTube channel with over 4,000 subscribers.
Thank you. Very flattered.
Is that a yes to my question?
Yes, it is.
However, that's not entirely true, is it?
It's roughly 38,000. 3,800. I'm really bad in math. Why? I'm not an accountant.
Thank you, Ms. Deuce. Now, you exaggerate these numbers to inflate your followership.
It's very good for revenue.
In fact, yes, you learn to exaggerate to make more money.
Part of my business, in all honesty.
Now, moving on to the weekend of July 14th and 15th, 2018, you decided to go there because you desired adventure.
Objection, Your Honor. The question calls for speculation.
So your client has to speculate about her own actions, or your witness, excuse me?
Yes, Your Honor. The opposing counsel is asking. I withdraw my objection.
Good idea. You may proceed.
Yes, sir. Ms. Deuce, you were in Midlands on that weekend because you desired adventure.
Yes, I was.
You had recently been on some of the mountain ranges,
I had.
and you wanted to check out this particular campsite because you heard about a murder in 2008,
Yeah, I heard it was haunted.
and this is the Collins Campground,
Yes.
and specifically the Lacron Loop also.
I heard it was very exciting.
And it was very hot that day.
Very.
In fact, a massive heat wave was coming over that entire weekend.
Don't worry, I remember.
You met Jordan Ryder that day,
I did.
and Parker Page,
I did.
and you interacted with them.
Yes, I did.
And in fact, you even talked to them a couple times.
I did.
And so while you were on the Lacron Loop, you saw them,
I did see them.
and you heard some screaming.
It was ear piercing.
However, you didn't see who was screaming.
I know what I heard though.
Okay, and later on you heard a yelp,
I did, yes.
but you didn't see who was yelping either.
I know what I heard, but no, I never saw.
You did call out, however.
I did, yes.
In fact, you turned around,
Yes.
and then you turned back around
Yes.
and went right to the summit.
The foliage was really dense.
You didn't go back to check out who was yelling?
At the time, hindsight's 2020. I didn't feel like it was my place.
So you didn't feel it was your place to go and check out who was screaming?
I called out, no one answered.
Okay, thank you. And the next day, you woke up to sirens, as you were talking about.
Yeah.
And then you spoke with police.
Yes, Detective Chesney did come up to me.
So when you spoke with Detective Chesney wanted you to point him to the location you last saw Jordan Parker.
Yes, I was happy to help. It was my civic duty.
However, you didn't do that. You took them to the location you heard the screaming.
Yes, to where I thought the scream originated from.
So you didn't listen to Detective Chesney. You instead took them to the place you thought was best.
I took him to the Lacroix Loop.
And that was the only day you ever heard the police, or excuse me, spoke with the police.
Yes.
They didn't take you to the police station?
No.
You didn't speak with them any time after?
No.
That was the only day you ever spoke with the police department of Midlands concerning this case?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
No further questions, Your Honor. We ask that the witness just be allowed to step down.
Let me step down. Next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The state would like to call Dr. Quincy to the stand.
All right. Counsel, can you report the name, please?
Yep.
Please,
Will Clongier, that's his last name.
C-L-O-N-I-N-G-E-R.
Yes.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Now, can you please state your name for the court?
Hi, my name is Dr. Richard Quincy.
Can you tell the court a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I am the Chief Medical Examiner of Midlands, and I perform autopsies every day, and it's a awkward first date topic.
And why are you in court today?
Today I am in court because I examined the body of Parker Page.
Dr. Quincy, I'd like to go over your specific credentials in today's case. What's your educational background?
So I did my undergrad at the University at Ohio State, in biomedical sciences, and then I went on to get my medical degree at the University of Virginia.
Do you have specific credentials in today's case?
Yes, I am board certified in 3 different things actually: pediatrics, forensic pathology, and anatomic pathology.
What methods and data did you use to conduct today's autopsy and today's report in general?
Well, as in any autopsy, I first start with my external examination. I look at all the abrasions and the bruises, and then once I have completed that portion, then I create a Y incision and do an internal examination.
Are these principles and methods common in your field?
Yes, they are.
And is it common in your field to conduct a report following an autopsy?
Yes, I always conduct a report after every single autopsy. I take very detailed notes to make sure that I don't miss anything.
Did you apply these data, these methods and data responsibly?
Yes, I did.
All right. Now let's talk about the case at hand. When did you receive Parker's body?
Her body came into my office on July 15th at 4:05 p.m.
Did you receive anything else along with Parker's body?
I received her medical records from the police.
And what did these medical records tell you?
These medical records showed that she was diagnosed with type 1 osteogenesis imperfecta, also called brittle bone disease, as well as asthma.
So what does brittle bones disease mean for Parker?
Well, for someone like Parker who has type 1 osteogenesis imperfecta, this really means that instead of tripping and getting a couple bruises, she could trip and break a couple bones. Basically, her bone density is just not as dense as a regular person, which makes it very fragile.
Did you take into account this osteogenesis imperfecta when calculating Parker's time of death?
Yes, I use the standard formula as all medical examiners and took the court temperature.
Using this equation, what did you in fact calculate Parker's time of death to be?
Using my equation, I did find her time of death to be between 4 and 6 p.m. on July 14th.
And how can you confirm this time of death?
I can confirm this time of death through my work, through my autopsy. Really, for calculating time of death, I use an equation, and I take the internal core temperature of the body And once I apply it to my formula, it tells me a range of time of death.
Circling back to Parker's medical records, what was different about Parker's body and Parker's medical records?
The difference from her body and the medical records would be all the abrasions and the fractures and the broken bones that she had when she suffered that 40-foot fall.
And Dr. Quincy, in your report, there's a diagram of these bruises, correct?
Yes, I did create a diagram.
Permission to approach opposing counsel?
You may.
This is just Dr. Quincy's offer documents. Okay. Would you guys like a courtesy copy? Okay.
Permission to approach the witness as well.
You may.
Now, Dr. Quincy, what did I just hand you?
This is the report that I made after and while doing the autopsy of Parker Page.
Has it been altered in any way?
No.
Is that your signature in the back as well?
Yes, it is.
All right, and now the state would like to offer this piece of, this report anyways, into evidence.
Objection, Your Honor, is a hearsay. These are out-of-court statements offered for the truth of the matter asserted.
May I respond?
You may.
Your Honor, this is an exception to hearsay under Rule 8036. Regularly conducted activities are allowed in this courtroom today.
I see the exhibit.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so this is his actual report.
Yes, and on, you'll eventually find if you keep looking through this diagram, and we will be talking about this diagram, if I may properly.
Your Honor, may I be heard on this grounds?
Yeah.
As to the 8036 exceptions, the opposing counsel has not laid sufficient foundation for the record was made near time from the information trained by someone with the knowledge, or B, C, or D. I would ask the opposing counsel to lay this foundation that it is a regularly conducted record of business activity. This foundation for how this is used in a regular business activity has not been laid. Furthermore, I would say that the doctor can speak about the diagram, but actually using it in, or including it in the report would be hearsay.
Counsel, I have a couple of problems with this particular offer. Number one, this isn't one of the pieces of evidence that was pre-numbered by both parties before the trial began.
Yes, Your Honor.
There's no exhibit number on it, and we have a pretrial order for a reason. And number two, I believe this is actually the expert's report and is therefore testimonial in nature. So while I think you can use it to refresh your witness's memory, it is not a proper exhibit. That being said, if you want to use the diagram for demonstrative purposes, the court would not have any problem with that.
I would like to proceed with that option, Your Honor.
So then I'll sustain your objection for the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Dr. Quincy, you did in fact construct a report on behalf of Parker's autopsy, correct?
Yes, while doing my autopsy, I take vigorous notes, and then I compile all of these notes into a summarized report.
And in this report, you included a diagram of Parker's external injuries?
Yes, I did.
All right. Permission for the counsel to construct a demonstrative?
You may.
If necessary to see it.
Absolutely.
And permission for the witness to step down and make use of the demonstrative?
May step down.
And Your Honor, is this a proper location for the demonstrative? Now, Dr. Quincy, what do these bruises tell you about Parker's cause of death?
As you can tell from this image here, there are many abrasions and fractures on the right side of her body. However, there is this fracture on her left clavicle. And so basically what this is telling me is that she suffered a substantial amount of injuries while falling from that 40 feet.
And could you elaborate on the skulls in this diagram?
Yes, as you can tell, right here near the temple, there was a fracture which caused internal hemorrhaging, and that is her ultimate cause of death.
Dr. Quincy, could you elaborate more on what's so significant about the bruise on the left clavicle?
Yes, as you can see, there's all this bruising on the right-hand side, as I stated before. However, there is this one bruise and fracture on the left side of the body. This is contralateral to everything else that the body is telling me. So I know that this had to come from a different source, especially since the bruising was different in nature compared to the right side of the body.
So based on these bruises and what the body told you, what did you conclude the cause of death to be?
I concluded the cause of death to be either accidental or homicidal.
All right, permission for the witness to return to the stand. Now, Dr. Quincy, did you speak with anybody after conducting this report?
Yes, Detective Chesney approached me.
And what did you speak with Dr. Chesney about?
Dr. Chesney approached me with a bunch of different items. Was wondering basically if any of these things would correlate to the body.
And did any of these items in fact correlate with the bruise in the body?
Yes, he did present me with a piece of evidence such as the hiking staff. And when looking at the hiking staff, I realized that the bottom cap of it is a perfect match for the bruise on her left clavicle. They are both 2.25 centimeters in diameter.
And did you amend your conclusions based on this discovery?
Yes, with this new information that was brought to light, I was able to declare this a homicide.
And just for clarity, Dr. Quincy, what are the main findings you can confirm in today's case?
Today I can confirm that Parker Page's time of death was between 4 and 6 p.m. on July 14th. I can also confirm that this was a homicide due to the contralateral fracture and bruising on her left clavicle. And I can also conclude that her reason for death is the hemorrhaging due to the skull fracture.
No further questions, Your Honor. And permission to deconstruct the demonstrative?
No objection to that, Your Honor.
You may.
First proceed, Your Honor.
You may.
Now, Doctor, you're the chief medical examiner for the county,
Yes, I am.
and you conducted the autopsy in today's case.
Yes, I did.
In doing so, you reviewed Parker's medical history,
Yes, they were given to me from reference.
and Parker has osteogenesis imperfecta.
That was in her reference.
Now, you know about this disease,
Yes, I was giving a pamphlet.
and you know that there are multiple types of this disease,
Yes, they are very different. There's a range.
ranging from type 1, the least severe,
Yes,
to type 3, the most severe.
that is correct.
However, Parker was diagnosed with type 1,
Yes.
but you did not conduct any further analysis into what type of OI she may have had.
Well, I conducted a thorough autopsy, and in this autopsy, I didn't reach any conclusions that would make me think that she had type 3.
So you just think that she had type 1 based on the examination that you conducted.
I know she has type 1.
Now, moving on, some of the problems with brittle bone disease include lung issues.
Yes, she was diagnosed with asthma and has had bronchitis in the past.
Certainly, that is important as well, and some of these issues include excess collagen in the lungs.
Not excess collagen.
But issues with the collagen in the lungs?
It was abnormal.
Abnormal.
Mhm.
And these can cause respiratory issues.
Yes, among other things.
And these can be more severe depending on the type of OI the person has.
Yes, if a person were to say have a lot of abnormal pulmonary collagen, then that would be an indication of a more severe type of OI.
Certainly not. Now, moving on to the time of death equations you used. You used the standard formula for your field,
Yes.
and in this field you used the equation of the body, or the temperature of the body, excuse me,
Yes, the core temperature.
and the standard temperature of the body,
98.6.
and you divide that by 1.5.
Yes, my equation is hours since death equals 98.6 minus internal temperature, core temperature, all divided by 1.5.
Exactly, doctor. But you only use, the only variable that you use is the body's core temperature.
Yes.
There are no other variables in the equation that include for temperature.
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered. The witness has greatly, in detail, explained what this equation is, and I feel like this question has already been answered.
Or maybe heard.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was merely looping to include other variables that were not included in the equation.
I believe that's fair ground. Overruled. Go ahead.
The variables not included in the equation include the outside temperature that day.
I'm sorry, repeat the question, please.
Sorry, my bad. So the only variable is that core temperature of the body.
Yes,
not the temperature outside that day,
that is not an equation.
or the sunlight the body may have been in.
No, it's all holistically involved in the formula with the internal temperature since I do take it from the liver.
Sure, but you use this equation no matter where the body may be placed.
It is the standard equation.
So you could use the same equation in, say, North Dakota,
Yes, it's very widely practiced.
or say in Florida,
It's practiced all over the country.
and you still reach the conclusion of 4 to 6 p.m. as the time of death?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor, for the questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor, we just asked that the witness be able to step in.
You may step down. Thank you. Next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution would like to call Detective Chesney to the stand.
Detective Chesney?
And before I begin, Your Honor, we'd like to enter exhibits 6, 7, 8, and 9. Per stipulation 8, these exhibits may be entered any time during either party's case in chief.
That is correct, Your Honor.
So admitted.
May I begin?
You may.
Could you state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Detective Jamal Chesney.
And what training do you have, Detective?
Yes, so to be a police officer in Midland City, there's a 720-hour police academy that we have to attend, where we receive training in things such as emergency vehicle operation, proper use of force, how to properly conduct investigations, how to secure and preserve evidence, as well as a few other things.
And Detective, do you have any advanced training?
Yes, specifically to become a detective in Midlands, there's a 40-hour detective course that you have to complete. Furthermore, I am a member of the International Homicide Association, which also requires an online course.
Now, Detective, why are you in court today?
I was the lead detective as to the investigation of the whereabouts and death of Parker Page.
And in that investigation, who is your main suspect?
Jordan Ryder.
And Detective, now I'd like to go back to the very beginning. How did you become involved in this case?
Yes, so on the morning of July 14th at approximately 7:30, my supervisor transferred me to my old buddy in East Sector Patrol, Sergeant Raguso, who then informed me that there was a potential missing child in Midland Center. I was then transferred over to the individual who made the call, Corbin Dallas.
And when you spoke to Mr. Dallas, what information did you receive?
Yes, so I made my way to Corbin Dallas's place of residence, where I also secured a small search party to search the house, as well as a 5-block radius.
And did you discover anything?
We did not, we were unable to locate Parker Page anywhere in the immediate area. However, Corbin Dallas did approach me with information that they could potentially locate the phone of Parker Page.
And were you able to locate the phone?
Yes, Mr. Dallas had the Find My Phone app on his phone, which was able to show us the last known location of Miss Page.
What was that location?
It was Carlton's Campground.
Did you go there?
Yes, we immediately moved the search there. Considering it was a much larger area, I had a few more of the boys in blue come over and kind of give us some assistance in the event that we did need to canvass the area.
And once you arrived at Calkins Campground, what did you find?
Yes, so immediately upon arrival, I spoke with the campground owner, Armando Rodriguez, who was able to point me in the direction of Campground 12, which Jordan Ryder had purchased for residents.
And what happened at Campground 12?
Yes, I found Miss Ryder sleeping in her tent. I proceeded to wake her and ask if she knew where Miss Page was. However, she was not able at that time to inform me of Miss Page's whereabouts.
Once you awoke and spoke with Miss Ryder, what did you do?
Yes, so I spoke with her, and truthfully, she seemed not particularly willing to cooperate. She made it clear that she's afraid she might violate her parole. and she just was really afraid to really give us any information or say anything because of that. So I did go ahead.
Objection, Your Honor, it's speculation. That last portion was indeed speculating to the mindset of Ms. Ryder.
What was the statement that you're saying was speculative?
Detective Chesney just testified that Ms. Ryder was afraid to give information to the police. He didn't say that he thought that. He was going in the mindset of Ms. Ryder.
Response?
Your Honor, from the proffer, the witness is speaking to what Ms. Ryder told him when he questioned her at the campsite. He's not speculating to what she thought, he's just saying what she told him.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yeah.
There were no direct statements regarding how Ms. Ryder felt about that. She said she was worried about violating her parole, yes, but she did not say that she was withholding information willingly because she was afraid of what would happen, which is what Detective Chesney just said.
I think that's correct. I'll sustain as to that last statement, and the jury will be instructed to disregard it.
That's right.
If you want to rephrase your question, go ahead.
Yes, sir. We'll move on, Detective, because we've discovered that you were talking. Did you find anything in the tent or along in the campsite?
Yes, so after speaking with Miss Ryder, I did go ahead and have her detained because, again, she didn't seem particularly eager to cooperate. So I had some of my guys go ahead and pick her up and have her moved to the station for further questioning. Furthermore, I proceeded to search the immediate campground, particularly her tent, where I was able to find a hiking stick, an e-tool, a receipt for Barry's Bait and Tackle Shop, as well as before my guys had her put in the patrol car, I did conduct a search for a person where I discovered a napkin in her pocket.
Now, this napkin, would you recognize a photograph of it?
Absolutely.
May I approach opposing counsel, Your Honor? May I approach the witness? And would Your Honor like a courtesy copy?
Sure.
Detective, do you recognize what I just handed you?
Yes, this is the napkin that I discovered in the pocket of Miss Ryder.
And is it a fair and accurate representation?
Yes, it is.
Has it been changed or altered in any way?
It has not, to my knowledge, no.
Your Honor, prosecution offers Exhibit 26 as evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
Be admitted.
And Detective, was there anything else found?
Yes, so like I was saying, I discovered a receipt on the campgrounds, a hiking stick, an e-tool as well, so.
And what happened after you discovered these and had Ms. Ryder arrested?
Yes, so while I was there searching the campgrounds, I spotted a hiker who had come over to see, I guess, what the commotion was about. I then approached her with a picture of Miss Page, asking if she had seen the young girl in the last 24 to 48 hours, at which point she did inform us that she had.
And what did this hiker do?
Yes, so just for some clarification, the hiker was Miss Dews, and she did inform us that she might know, that she might be able to take us to the last place that she had seen Parker Page. She also informed us that there was a location along the trail where she had discovered some disturbed brush. I requested to also be taken to this location as well.
And while on the trail, or this location, while on the way to this location, did you use any maps or any kind of information?
Yes, in my discussion with Mr. Rodriguez, it was made clear to me that some of the places and some of the trails on the campgrounds were relatively dangerous. So I did secure a map to have a better understanding of the terrain and the trails themselves, that way I can make sure myself and none of my guys got hurt.
And Detective, would you recognize this map today?
Absolutely.
May I approach the opposing counsel, Your Honor?
No.
May I approach the witness? And would Your Honor like a courtesy copy?
Yes.
Do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, this is the map that I used when I was going around Calkins Campground.
And is it a fair and accurate representation?
Yes, it is.
Has this been changed or altered in any way?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Your Honor, prosecution offers Exhibit 23 into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
Be admitted.
And Your Honor, permission to prepare the courtroom for a demonstrative.
You may. You may step down.
Yes.
Detective, could you explain where you were taken by Ms. Dews?
Yes. So we began to make our way up the Leckrone Loop Trail, and about 2.5 miles in, we reached this point here, where there were some sharp turnarounds and drop-offs, and some relatively high cliff faces as well.
Thank you. And did you take any photographs of this area?
Yes, while I was on the trail, I took several photographs of the area, which I then documented and logged into evidence as well.
May I prepare another question?
Yes.
The photographs. Detective, do you recognize any of these photographs?
Yes, these are all of the photographs that I took that day.
And could you explain what, if any, what these photographs are?
Yes, so these are just photographs of the trail as we were going along looking for Parker while Kelly Dews was taking us along the trail. Specifically, this one right here is where we eventually found the body of Parker Page.
Is there any trail that leads to that area?
No, this is actually about 250 to 300 meters off the trail.
Thank you. And so after you found the body, what happened?
Yes, so immediately upon discovering the body, I had all the bystanders who had volunteered to help look for the body, specifically Miss Dews, as well as there was another hiker who was there that day, Cameron Lee. I had them step back along with some additional personnel of my guys, and I had another officer come in and we secured the area.
After securing the area, where did you go?
Yes, so after securing the area, I made my way back to HQ to further interrogate Miss Ryder.
After the course of this interrogation, was any more information revealed to you?
Yes, so I was called by one Kai Washington, who made it known to me that they were Miss Ryder's social worker. Furthermore, I was contacted by Mr. Remy Mouchard as well, who was able to bring me what we eventually determined was Parker Page's cell phone.
Was this cell phone helpful to your investigation at all?
Yes, it was. Once we were able to identify that the phone belonged to Parker, we found some messages on it when we went through it that were of significant importance.
And would you recognize a photograph of these messages today?
Absolutely.
Permission to approach opposing counsel, Your Honor. Permission to approach the witness. And would Your Honor like a courtesy copy? Do you recognize this, detective?
Yes, these are the particular messages that I found of significant note on Parker's phone.
And is this a fair and accurate representation?
Yes, it is.
Has it been changed or altered in any way?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Your Honor, prosecution moves to enter Exhibit 27 into evidence.
Objection, Your Honor, as to hearsay. These are statements of Parker Page and her friend.
Your Honor, pursuant to Rule 8033, a then existing mental, physical, or emotional, then existing mental, then existing mental, emotional, or physical, I can't think of the word. Conditions, yes, Your Honor, thank you, are an exception to hearsay, and these messages directly talk about how she was feeling, of how Parker Page was feeling emotionally and mentally and physically, how she is literally going to die and literally going to break her bones, or physical conditions.
Okay, response?
Yes, Your Honor. First, the last statement on that document isn't even talking about Parker's direct mindset at all, so it doesn't apply to that statement itself, which would preclude the document. Second, opposing counsel has failed to lay the foundation that there's an emotional or any sort of condition going on with this document through Detective Chesney, which has to be done in order for this exception to apply. And furthermore, the idea that a preteen who says she's literally going to die, it's not really establishing any form of mental, physical, or emotional condition clearly enough.
Yes, Your Honor,
Tell me about this very last statement.
the very last statement, may I approach and be reminded of that last statement? Oh, yes, Your Honor, for that very last statement, I can change the exception that I'd like to cite for that statement.
Okay.
803.1, a present sense impression. It's the exact impression at the time that Parker Page had of her mother, the defendant.
Okay. Tell me why the last statement doesn't fall under 803.1.
Your Honor, that would have to be established, that at that exact moment in time, Parker Page sent that text message. Not a few seconds after, not a few minutes after she sent Jordan's angry. The detective hasn't established that, and in fact cannot establish that fact, and therefore present such impression does not apply. Because it's not saying that Parker immediately perceived this from Jordan. It's just a timestamp and a statement.
Okay. I'm gonna overrule your objection. I'm gonna find that the statements at the top are admissible under 8033 and the bottom statement is admissible under 8031. Overruled.
And Detective, what about these text messages were relevant to your?
Yes, specifically the last two, where Parker expressed the fear that she literally is going to die or break all her bones, and the last message where she established that Jordan was, quote, angry because she said she loved Corbin more.
No further questions, Your Honor. May I retrieve evidence from?
Yes.
Your Honor, can I ask for the counsel to deconstruct their demonstrative? Thank you. Detective Chesney, let's start with your experience. You've been a police officer for most of your career in law enforcement.
Yes.
Most of your training is in fact for police officer work.
I would say in the police officer academy, they train you to be a police officer, yes.
Thank you. Now, Detective, furthermore, you've had roughly a 40-hour course on detective training.
Yes, that's correct. That's the standard course they have us take.
Standard, and so you haven't had any more specialized training besides that?
No, that's the only training that they administer or require.
Then you took an online course.
Yes, that's more of an elective course, the International Homicide Association, for detectives where we kind of share stories and tactics for investigations and things of that nature.
Thanks, Detective, but again, you took an online course.
Yes, that's correct.
And this is only your 6th homicide, isn't it?
Yes, admittedly there haven't been that many homicides, however, I have worked, the lion's share, they're not very common, but to be on 6 homicides, especially considering I haven't been a detective that long, I feel is, a bit of a testament to my work, I should say.
So you agree you haven't been a detective that long?
No.
And it is in fact your 6th homicide, yes?
Yes, it is my 6th homicide.
And now let's move on to how you got started with this investigation. You got a phone call from one of your sergeants.
Yes, my supervisor.
He told you there's a possible kidnapping.
Yes, he informed me that there was a missing child and that he instructed me to be in charge of the investigation and find the kid.
So you went to Corbin Dallas' house.
Yes, Corbin Dallas is the individual who made the call, so I didn't move my investigation there.
You realized that Corbin Dallas seemed intoxicated.
Well, actually, that's not quite the case. While Corbin Dallas did smell of alcohol, he did have bloodshot eyes. He even, came up to me and expressed that he might be intoxicated. I've been a cop for a long time, and I was on the beat for a long time, and I dealt with a lot of drunk guys, I should say, in my time, and it was very clear to me that he wasn't particularly drunk. He was suffering from more of a hangover, so.
Okay, so he was hungover.
Yeah, but that doesn't really, aside from maybe a headache or something like that, at least in the times that, I spent a little too much time at Chuggies, doesn't really stop you from, giving relevant information.
So you've been hungover before, Detective?
I mean, I will say, I've had a time or two in Chuggies, but I can assure you I was fully sober during the time of my investigation.
All right, but did you give Corbin Dallas a breathalyzer test?
No, it didn't seem necessary.
So you didn't?
No, not at all.
You didn't do any form of test to decide if he was
Check.
intoxicated?
Your Honor, relevance?
Your Honor, the credibility of the detective using a drunk or not drunk witness as the start of his investigation is incredibly relevant. Furthermore, the bar for relevancy is very low.
Response?
They've already established the start of his investigation was when he got a phone call, not when he went and talked to Mr. Dallas from the sergeant.
Overruled.
So you didn't take any measures or do any tests to ensure that Corbin Dallas wasn't intoxicated?
No, again, I didn't see the need as he did not seem inebriated to me at the time.
All right, but you asked Mr. Dallas if he could tell you any of Parker's friends or where she might be. You asked him those questions.
Yes, I did ask if, he knew the whereabouts of Parker Page.
And he couldn't tell you any information